Well, welcome. And I would love for us to open up with an opening prayer. Is there anyone who would be willing to lead us in an opening prayer this evening?
I'll do it.
One shy. Thanks, Kathy.
Gracious God, we give you thanks for these days and the opportunities they present us and the challenges that stretch us.
Mm.
We thank you for this group, for the collective commitment to racial justice, in exploring and figuring out how we can be more faithful in regard to racial justice. Thank you for this time we have together. We remember those who can't be with us tonight, especially remember Mary and the loss of her brother. And we pray for wisdom and discernment in all that we do together. Amen.
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 Thank you for that. Well, why don't we start here? Let's start with maybe going around to each group and just sharing if you've done the activity, what it was, but the basics. You don't have to go into the deep since we'll have that process next time. And then if you haven't, what you have planned. Just sharing. We are going to have a group conversation with the deacons around these topics, and we'll ask for their feedback in this way, that type of thing. And then we'll all kind of have an understanding of what each church has going on. So maybe we'll start with pull-ins since you've all have had an opportunity to get it going.
Mary facilitated it. Mary, I don't know if you feel like trying to walk through that activity.
Yeah, I'll give an overview first. I think we mentioned before, one thing we decided we wanted to do was to make it a celebratory, joyful evening at Pullen. We chose to do this as part of the summer Wednesday night program. During the regular school year, Pullen meets, most every Wednesday night with a dinner, but not so much in summer. But I think we meet twice in June. Anyway, we took one of those Wednesday nights, and we started with more of a report out to the folks there. We feel like this is actually Pullen's fourth year of doing active anti-racist work. And I think some of us felt like it was kind of time for us to kind of say what we're thinking and what we're hearing. And so we gave a very quick overview of themes that have been coming up this year in discussions that we've had. Specifically, two times this year, this calendar year, we've had Sunday group discussions focused on our anti-racist work. And so we kind of gleaned some themes from those discussions. And if just given a couple of minutes, I can actually find the PowerPoint and talk about what some of those themes were, if you like. But we went over that. And then we had a more celebratory time where we had a trivia game related to Juneteenth, because we recognize that we have, especially some of maybe the older members in our congregation, really aren't aware of what it's all about. And Maggie Zillman, who's head of our anti-racist group, put together or found this trivia game, and it was really fun and interactive. So we did it by tables. So there were group discussions on every question, and I think people really enjoyed it, and it was educational. I'm sure people learned some things too. Then our associate minister, Shalise Overy, who's not here right now, she's part of this group. She led us all in line dancing, and that was really, really fun. We were all pretty awkward, or most of us were. But I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in the short time that we had. And that was reminding people of some of the challenges we're facing and then the serious discussions we've been having. And then also remembering too that we want to keep finding the joy in this work. And Kathy, or Pam, if you have anything to add, please do.
Well, we also requested feedback. We've started a project based on Michelle Norris's book, The 6 Words Regarding Race, and we put out on the table just strips of paper, just asking people to write 6 words about their experience, their thoughts, or just anything that they felt about race. And we'd already collected some data from the beginning of the year till I think we started in like April, May. We gave people time to do that. So this was like a chance to get some more information. And we had people that responded back to that with their thoughts on race. So and I think we're going to probably continue that throughout our process. Just to make sure we're listening or just hearing what people have to say. And so that was just part of the feedback. So, but it was a really fun day. And we had vegan barbecue.
Oh, right.
We did.
And yeah, catered by Black-owned business, very, intentionally.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'll just add that it really was a lot of fun. There was a lot. The trivia was Black history, and given that the group is mostly white, some of us did better than others. I think I was in one of the low scoring groups, but it was fun. People learned. The line dancing was fun, and I thought the summary that Maggie and Mary had put together in terms of what the group has been doing, sort of a report out of what the group's been doing and what is going to be doing, should have been very helpful. And it was pretty well attended for a summer Wednesday night. So I was really pleased with it.
That's
And the
wonderful.
name of the book that we were basing our exercise on was Our Hidden Conversations. And it's What Americans Really Think About Race and Identity by Michelle Norris. So it was, the book is sort of an anthology. Because it's been written over many years, and it's just, she started the project with just sending out postcards, and then it grew into a website, and then she asked people to provide their contact information, and the book dives deeper into people's 6 words. So it's a really very fascinating book, but that's
Thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. I'm sorry, Emily, I didn't mean to.
No, I wonder if I think we could also, if anyone from the other churches has any questions, I think we could take a few questions. I think we're sort of adapting from what we were going to do, but we're also kind of giving a taste of what we will do in the discernment process. So if anyone, from Wilshire or St. Charles is listening and just, has a question or feels like something has come up for them, is there anything that you want to ask the pull-in team? Yeah, Becky.
So I'm curious, what do you see coming out of this and as next steps?
out of the,
What-
say that again. I didn't hear the last
Oh,
part.
wait. What do you see coming out of that experience for the congregation as a whole, and what do you see as the next steps?
I think for me, it's a chance for everyone to start talking more about race, to help us all be comfortable discussing our history and not be ashamed and not have all the guilt that goes along with, you know, or even the other side, the or feeling of that oppression, just basically to speak about it. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that over the next few months too, with having groups where people can talk. And we're doing that this summer as well. We're with the bias training that we're doing and the interactive discussions about racial bias. And I forgot what's coming up next Sunday. We have another. Uh, uh, I think I'll have to look it up, but it was we started the summer with racial bias, and we're going to continue having discussions on that. So, but by the Racial Equity Institute, they've been coming and they're giving us affinity bias now and authority bias. So those are two other things that we're exploring as well.
I think I don't want to interrupt if anyone else had anything they wanted to share. And so I do think it's a great example or a way for us to kind of think about with the process that we'll be going through the formal discernment. So it will be similar. It would start with the share out of what happened. So you all have done that, and then I know you all actually probably have some more in-depth, you could talk specifically about the game and some of the questions and some of the things that came out. And so when we look at August, that's what we would be looking from for each group, is to be able to share that in that way in a little bit more detail. So thank you all for that great overview tonight and for setting us up with this example so we can walk through what we'll be hoping to do. We've sent out some materials and we'll share those again. And basically what those are is kind of outlining this process. And so what we want to do is kind of in shifts. It's starting with just hearing from the group. This is what happened. And then there's a section that we call clarifying questions. And so that's, Becky gave us a great one. And that will just be an immediate response to kind of what can I ask that will just help me understand what's going on? So that's more about, instead of pulling meaning right away, but just, do I really understand what they did? How many people were there? Was it a particular part of the congregation, or was it open to everyone? Like, as opposed to like was it specifically for the youth versus the broader congregation, that type of thing. And anything specific about just the activity itself, making sure everyone understands it. And then we kind of take a moment of silence at that point and silent reflection. Say, now we've heard about the activity, let's just sit in quiet and see what comes up for us. Does anything come up? Something about this process that we really want to emphasize is thinking about how it can lean into the way that you already talk to and hear from God. So this isn't about a new way to hear from him, but it's about giving space for you to use the ways that you already communicate, that you already get your messages, that you get your guidance, and building it into a process around this particular work, and creating space to really be led in this work on these next steps. After that period of reflection, we'll come back to a group discussion that's centered around um, reflective questions. So this is when we would ask you all to share around what maybe came for you during that thinking period. And the idea is that the group, the church members who were not a part of the presenting church, are able to ask some reflective questions that might help the presenting church see their own activity or the events that came out in a different way. And so that's why we're doing this in this way. It's being able to kind of, this came up to me about what if you tried this? Or I just had this random thought. I don't know what it means, but does it mean anything to you? There aren't rules around this, but it's a space to just really use your own kind of reflective processes to be a sounding board and to really have ideas bouncing around this. And again, all of this time period and everything that we're doing is shifting you all from in the program from strictly being kind of a learning piece into shifting into the teachers, right? This is kind of a turning point of You've been able to absorb and talk to some thought leaders and some theologians over the course of this program. You use that information to kind of go back to your congregation, have different meetings, have different activities. We're now kind of reflecting back on those meetings, activities, and the feedback that you've gotten from your congregation members about their interests and the way they want to be engaged. So we want to take all of that information, see what message we feel that we're getting from that about what the next step should be, and actually begin to identify a concrete next step that you all want to take. And the remaining part of this program specifically is we want to be able to think about, now that you have a concrete next step that you feel has come from your discernment process, what can this program do to help you take that step? And over the course of the final months, we'll be talking more technically about what it looks like to implement. We'll be finding out in each specific church the needs and around what expertise we might be able to help facilitate and connect you with to help with that. And then also making sure that by the time you all leave the program, you have like a 12-month plan of what needs to happen in order for the next step that you've identified that's important for you all to go to move forward, and then having our support throughout the implementation of that over the next year. So I just wanted to paint you a roadmap of where we're going and why we're looking to do it in this way. How does that feel to everyone?
Good.
So I think what I'd love to do is maybe hear from each of the other churches what you have planned. We know it's not implemented yet, but that way everybody kind of has an idea of what's going on. And then, yeah, we'll take it from there. St. Charles, are you all ready to share what you've got planned?
Well, we think we have a plan. June was a challenging month for many of us with travels and family health issues and things like that. And our congregation also is very deeply involved in observing Pride Month. And so there were a lot of congregational activities focused on that. So we are hoping, I think we're planning to show a film next Wednesday night following a potluck. It's called Juneteenth, Freedom and Faith. It was premiered on PBS a couple of years ago. It's really a nice piece and kind of goes it starts with sort of religious and Christian context, and it ends with that. But in between, there is some discussion about Juneteenth, how it came about, experiences related to observing it, but also there's one particular scene that really hit me where a guy's being interviewed and they're standing in the archaeological footprint of a former slave cabin. And he says something like, it's like this country is a house, and we now all own the deed to it. And it's not in very good shape. It needs a lot of repair work. And he kind of talks about different parts of a house that need repair work. And it just struck me as such a beautiful metaphor for talking about how do we, as people of faith and particularly as white people, think about how to repair the damage that has been done over the course of our history. And so we're hoping to show that and then have a conversation with some directed questions afterwards as sort of the next step in our process. And when I say we're hoping to, it's because our pastor has been away for the last 10 days and he comes back tomorrow. So we'll be we've been passing in the night, if you will, and hoping to confirm all of that tomorrow and get it on the books. We'd like pull and usually have things about, ours are about once a month. During the year on Wednesday nights, but in the summer we often take breaks. But we've been having something of a film series lately and people have been responding well to it. So we think it will fly well.
And I love that last point you made, the fact that you've already been having a film series. And so this sounds like it's such a great way to naturally fit into something the church is already doing, which is, how we want this work to be, right? Seamless, to not always feel like it's apart and taking separate resources, but that it's fitting into what you're doing. So love that piece. Um, and pardon me if I missed you, it sounds like you're maybe wanting this to foster some discussion. That same evening, or what is that looking like, in you all's thoughts?
Right. Again, we haven't quite organized ourselves around it yet, but we're planning to have some table conversations and some prompting questions for folks to discuss to try to, get them beyond the people in our congregation love to learn about things, to know about them, and to lament how bad everything was or is. But the notion of taking that next step is not always a connection that gets made. And sometimes it is. And so we're hoping to ask some questions about, what does the repair work look like and things of that sort to lead us into much deeper conversations that we hope will continue and evolve.
Great.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that point about like recognizing where the congregation is comfortable and then trying to kind of walk people to maybe like the next step, I think is really beautiful. And what we want y'all to be gathering, kind of like what Pullen said, and what I hear you saying, Becky, is like gathering the feedback that you get, not just, oh, I like this activity or I didn't like this activity, right? But where are the points of friction? Where are people coming up with their own ideas? Maybe you notice like, that's 3 different random people who told me the same kind of thing, So kind of listening for that feedback, because we'll incorporate it, into, like Shauna said, how do we imagine moving forward?
And the piece I would add to that too is that that invitation aspect. I think this is a great opportunity after an event like this that they've come and decided to participate in on a Wednesday night to say, we're also opening, want you all to know our arms are open. You all can come and join and participate in this work if you want to know more about IDAT, if you want to start, doing these things with us. But I think that sounds great. I'm really excited about y'all's plan. And last but not least, the fabulous Wilshire.
Yeah. There we go. Hey, sorry, I'm not sure if y'all saw it. It sounds like Juliana and I both lost power. It has been coming down here, so I'm on my phone, so my apologies for the poor quality and all.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank goodness for cell phones, and that's where when you lose power, you're still good to go. So we have a few things kind of coming in the pipeline that are all going to roll out here in the next couple weeks. So we have built a timeline of Wilshire's history, and we're going to be presenting it throughout the church. We've printed it on like a large scale timeline. And our goal is for that to be a living timeline. So it is on 3 very large panels with lots of extra space and some instructions along the bottom, inviting Wilshire members to add any major events that they may remember, or important moments, or sermons that really stuck with them around racial justice, or things that maybe we fell short on, or stuff like that. And so it's really a moment for the Wilshire members to get involved. And then it also prompts them at the very end of the timeline. There is a large space where, with a big circle saying, like, where do you see us going from here? So that is where we can start getting kind of a pulse of what the church wants to see to help walk alongside them in this journey. And so it just got dropped off at the church just today. So we're going to be putting that up in 2 places at our church so that Wilshire members easily can access that and give their input, and put a QR code on there that links them to a story about IDAT so they can learn more about who this group is and stuff like that. And then we have also got a land acknowledgement that will be going out here in the next month as well. Because while we did our research, we learned a lot about Wilshire's history, and the land that we are worshiping on has been, was previously native land, but then also was land owned by the Caruth family, which was this largest slave owning family in Dallas. So we really wanted to acknowledge both of those facts, and in a special way where our church can then honor and commemorate that. So that will also be coming out. And our hopes down the road from there is to then lead that, and take the responses that we get from both of those things and tailor that into focus groups. So that is the long-term kind of plan for that. Wilshire members, did I miss anything? That was kind of like a very, very light overview.
Love that. Love that. So then, and I'm glad that you brought up the timeline. So one thing that it reminds me to say, please you all take pictures and pull it. I don't know if you all had the opportunity to take a couple of pictures, but that would be great. And we think for you all too, to be able to have a nice write up that you all can also share about the work, and then and being able to kind of show what you've put into it, and for your members to kind of see, oh, this is actually, what we're continuing to build on. And so, yes, if Wilshire and St. Charles, you could also take some pictures of your activity and your conversations, and definitely that lovely timeline. That would be fantastic. I don't know, would Poland and St. Charles, we didn't specifically mention it just now, but did your timelines feature into to your or will they feature into the activity, or any future plans in terms of your current line of thought? I know you're still working on things, so it's not to put you on the spot, but just to kind of think about, whether and how that can be useful to what you're trying to accomplish.
I think we're interested in putting the timeline together in another format that can be easily shared and maintained over time, and shared online. As one component of answering your question. But I've been, well, the team will have to talk about this, but I've been thinking personally about the parallel between our congregation and another congregation, both launched as missions of the same large white congregation many years ago, and launched ours white, affluent, the other congregation Black and disgruntled about how they were treated, and thinking about the possibilities of us building relationship that is stronger there, and exploring timeline and history and future together. But we'll see whether that resonates, and if the other congregation's open to it too.
I think it's a really interesting thought. I'm glad that you're sharing that. I think it opens the door to a lot of possibilities. You never know what can come out of something like that. Poland, did you have thoughts around timeline work? And how that might, even if it's not part of specifically that event, but just in general, thinking about how to bring that in as we think about this work contributing to the changing of the narrative history.
Well, Mary and Pam can add some more, or Mary can speak for us. That would be better.
Yeah, one thing we emphasized in the Juneteenth event is that we are looking into history. This is something we have communicated before, but we reiterated that. And My thought is, as we still have quite a bit of work to do, I think. We've had a couple of really good presentations on Pullens history in our Sunday groups, but there are just things we don't know, and we're trying to find out more. And my thought is that as we find out more, then we'll know how we can best use a timeline. It's not clear to me right now.
Yeah, I think our archivist is at least supposed to be looking up some things from the archives for us. But we definitely still have some work to do on that.
And Shalise wants us to get together towards the end of July to
Yes,
have a discussion about it. So
that's right. We do
more.
have a meeting coming up where we're going to try to make sure we're aligned in what we're doing now and focused.
That's good. Shauna, can I talk more about the discernment question? So that just segues right naturally into
Before we
it.
jump
So
away,
yeah.
um, I just want to encourage that. First, thank you for sharing that. So I think
Yes.
it's you're right. This is all a work in progress, right? So there's not an expectation that there's any concrete answers. And so a lot of these questions are just kind of meant to help provoke the thought and continue that processing. And then what I would encourage, especially as you all kind of come together for your meeting at the end of July and for everyone, but thinking about as you're gathering more information, also don't feel pressured to have everything polished and finished when you go to the congregation. Because at this stage, what you're really wanting to do is have them join into those pieces with you and join into those conversations. And so, and not everything, we know every meeting can't be a meeting of 500 people. So that's not the goal. But just the idea that if you have started out a way of communicating and sharing with them, if they're used to maybe hearing an announcement or seeing one in the weekly bulletin or something of that nature, then as you move forward, continuing that dialogue with them. Here's what we're doing now. We're thinking about how our history plays into this work. If you have thoughts or you would like to share anything around that, or you have any opinions, you can email us here and let us know. Or if you are going to have an open meeting with the congregation, here's when that is. But now this is where we want to start that transition of how do we take the full burden off of the smaller IDAT committee and start distributing that and using the work as a tool for that community building around the IDAT work and what it might look like. So just wanted to kind of put that in there and in your brain as well. And the other piece I'll point out, you mentioned the meeting coming together in July and making sure you're aligned. And that's such an apt thing to be discussing at this point, because that's kind of where we are too, as a very close next piece. And we'll be working with you all over the next sessions to look at what you currently already have going on with your equity. I'm really wanting to get that written down so that as you look at it, one thing that we learned in all of the visits, and we shared with you in our meetings as we were doing it, but you all, as you talked, often kind of almost had an epiphany moment where you realize we're really doing a lot of different things, but we just don't always categorize it together. So if we're talking about a piece here and a piece there, we might feel like nothing's moving, but now that we're talking about everything, it's easier to really see the big picture of the fruit of a lot of labor. And so we think that process of just getting everything down on paper that might in some way be related to all of your anti-racism efforts in your church over the years, and being able to see it will really help, I think, too, with you all thinking about how you continue to talk to the congregation. Because in reality, this is not something new that you're presenting. You all have been doing a lot of things for a long time. And there are a lot of projects they might already be engaged in that could technically fall under anti-racism, and maybe you've just never used that terminology with it. And so that might help with the motivation. It doesn't have to be the term anti-racism, but it's more about it not feeling scary or new when you're able to say, no, we've been doing this. Look at this program and that program, and you went to this and you went to that. So we're just talking about continuing and expanding the work we've already been doing together. So thank you for bringing up that part about strategy, because it's very important. So I'll stop talking now, Emily.
No, that was great. I just to, I think, circle back to this discernment, because that's also very like connected to everything that Shauna has just said. And just, I mean, I can just share from my own personal experience, basically, I think the process is Ignatian. I'm not sure. It seems kind of Ignatian, but when I was going through kind of some vocational questioning after I had finished seminary, um, my pastor offered this process. I don't think he invented it, but this process of really naming as the one who's discerning, like really starting with a question, like what is the question that you are asking God for? And so, we just heard Mary really like name a question, like what should we do with, our timeline, or how do we interact with this history of ours, Um, and I feel like Wilshire, when y'all shared, there was some questions in there, Becky and St. Charles, y'all have some questions. So I think this central question is what we really want y'all to be kind of chewing on as over the next month, as some of these activities happen, as you meet with your group. Um, and we know that your own feelings about what's happening, the actual facts of what's happening, the feedback you're receiving, all of that, is a part of how you're experiencing this. And all of that is a part of shaping what is this question? How can we begin integrating racial equity into our worship practices? Or, how is God calling us to sort of activate this land acknowledgement, or whatever it is. But just trusting that through this process of doing it, you'll come with this central kind of question that you're seeking God for. And then as we walk together through this process of discernment, um, you're, like Shauna said, you're inviting the Spirit to speak through each other. So if Mary is in a group with Juliana and, hearing it for the first time, the Spirit can still speak through that conversation and through those questions to say, well, imagine what it could look like if your church walked down this path. And so we do want to have this discernment process, not just to help y'all in hearing from God, but also as a tool that you can take back to your own congregations, trusting that this isn't just a small group of people in a back room making decisions about what happens, to the future of your church, but this is really a process of walking this path with God. You're on this path because God has called you to it, not just because you thought it sounded like a good idea one day. And God is continuing to lead you through it. And so we want to just kind of tap into that and invite each other into that. I'm not an expert on what's happening at Pullen, but the Spirit may speak something to me that the folks at Pullen need to hear. So that's what we kind of want to open ourselves up to for next month. And like Shauna said, I'll send the worksheet again. The worksheet is super basic, and it just basically gives you a chance to kind of gather your thoughts before we come together to meet. And again, one of the main sort of postures we want to hold is, resisting the temptation to like tie everything up in a nice bow when we're done. So if you come out of your activity, if you come out of the August cohort session, if you come out of this whole program and you're like, I don't exactly know what exactly we're going to do, that's okay, because we're kind of living into that openness and those questions together. So, yeah, are there any questions about that sort of overview? And yeah, Kathy, I see your comment. I do think it is very similar to that Quaker practice.
So what you all will see on the materials that Emily shares are really more examples of the different type of questions, examples of clarifying questions versus reflective questions. Um, And which it does seem really obvious, and it kind of is, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's not. It's not. And so I think it's a good skill for us to be able to practice understanding the different questions, and especially when we kind of think about you all as becoming the facilitators of this and recognizing it as different phases. Um, and then it will also just have some general questions about the your event. And again, this isn't something formal. You have to come with a PowerPoint and all of this. It's not about that, but it's more about thinking about if I'm telling this full story about what we did in a shorter amount of time, then what are some of the key points that I want to make sure that they hear? What if I want to, if a message is going to come to me through someone in this cohort, what do I want to make sure they know about the activity that we did? So I feel like they have the information that the message could be useful and meaningful to us. So that's what we're looking for. So everything we're sending you is just more of a guidance so that you have heard a little bit about the process. As we go through it, you might be a little bit more comfortable. It'll be our first time as a group doing it. So we're not saying everybody has to feel comfortable, and it might feel a little bit nerve-wracking at first, but we're gonna kind of work with it together and move through it together. And so I think we can probably shift to our announcements, and this will be a shorter meeting tonight. I think the other big share that we were going to have for you this evening is that we're finally kind of finalizing a lot of the first round of details that we need to share with you so that we can start, you all can start your planning for the November summit. So on the 21st of this month, we will go live with the convening page for you all. And so that will have all of the information that you need to, like the registration link, all the information about transportation, about hotel accommodations, an opportunity for us to ask about, food allergies and things of that nature, and some information about the itinerary as well. So there are a couple final details that we're needing to confirm because we want to make sure we all have all of that in place for you. But we'll have it all kind of pulled together in one place on a site that we create for it, and you all can expect that to be ready July 21st. So we will send that out in an email to let you know and direct you to it. And then we can also talk about it in August if you haven't had a chance to look by then. But just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming and that we're moving along there, and we're really excited about it.
Are those dates finalized? I'm sorry, I've been on the road a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, the summit dates are November 13th through the 16th. So beginning that, the 13th is a Thursday, so beginning in that evening and then concluding with worship on the 16th.
So we know there will be many more questions about that. So we'll have all that we'll have all of that for you, but we didn't want to spring it on you. We wanted you to know that it's in the works, and once we have one or two more details hammered down, then we'll be able to put that out for you. So yeah. Well, I think then, unless anyone has any final thoughts they'd like to share, yes, please.
Yeah, hearing from Kathy just reminded me, Kathy came to Pullen in May or the beginning of June, I forget, to perform the Road to Damascus. And we continued to hear so many great comments about it. That was just deeply meaningful to our congregation, and it was an amazing show. I don't think I mentioned that last time. And so I just wanted to recognize that that was a really key activity in our work in recent times.
Love that.
Thank you, Miss Mary. Appreciate that. Y'all were amazing. It was amazing to be in your space and to get to see all y'all up close and personal. And yeah, thank you so much for all y'all did to welcome us into your church home.
Well, you're welcome. It was a real gift to us.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. And that's definitely something that we want to highlight as well. So yeah, so we'll probably be reaching out to you all and see what's a good way to kind of to highlight that and kind of show that collaboration, because I think that's important. You all are basically becoming a network for each other, and and in many ways, you'll be in a position to be able to kind of learn from what's working within your own congregations, some challenges that some of you might experience that you could give the others a heads up on. And as we kind of move through this, move forward, we'll be talking with you all more about a vision for what ongoing support could look like, almost an alum version, if you will, around resources, just around facilitating connection, not necessarily ongoing meetings, but just creating a space to where after the last session doesn't mean that you all cannot easily engage again. How can the program be a facilitator, and what does that look like, and what will the needs be? So that'll just be kind of an ongoing conversation from now moving forward that will pop in. And if you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. with an idea that you just must share, please feel free to shoot us an email on that. And we'll just be kind of gathering those thoughts. So I think what we'll do, we'll move to our closing prayer, and moving forward, just to kind of bring everyone in, I think what we'll do is just kind of, rotate those pieces. So Kathy opened us up this morning, or this evening, with our opening prayer. So that was Pullet, and Emily will close us out, but we'll ask that for August, maybe someone from St. Charles will do our opening prayer, and we'll take our closing. So you all can pick among the group who it will be. I'll turn it over to Emily.
All right. Well, let's pray. God, we thank you so much for this evening. We thank you for being with us in this time, for going ahead of us in this time. God, we thank you for all you're doing in the midst of all we carry, God. And we thank you that you will be with us as we close out this session this evening, God. I just pray for all of the steps that have been taken, the seeds that have been planted of this work in these churches, God. I just pray that you would bless and consecrate the work for the sake of advancing your kingdom, for the sake of advancing shalom and true justice and peace, Lord. I pray that you would just make yourself known as we ask these questions, as we listen to each other, as we seek next steps for what we should do, God. I just pray that you would make us all faithful, as Kathy prayed. We just thank you, and again, we just pray a blessing over those who are, especially over those who are experiencing loss and suffering tonight, Lord. We thank you, and we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for spending another Tuesday night with us.
Yes. Shauna, do we have the opportunity to go into our own groups and talk?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's up?
Great to see everybody. Y'all take care and be safe out there.
Take care.
Nice to see you.
Let's make sure. I think it's going to let you go in. Someone try to go in and see if it's letting you.
And
Just open.
pulling folks, since we're going to be meeting a little later, I'm not sure we need to now.
Yeah,
Unless you
agree.
want to. Is that okay?
Okay,
Fine with me. Pam.
that's fine. Yes. Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Good to see everybody. Good
Nice
night.
to see you.
Y'all take care.
Take care, everyone.
And it didn't open up for you. Let me try again.
It's just us.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I had to say, let you choose. Okay. So there we go.
Well, apparently we have a St. Charles group, you
Yeah, so you
too.
should be able to get
At this
in.
point, so
Is it letting you go in?
It will.
Okay,
we
good.
can just stay here if you want us to.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not.
Emily and I are going to meet as well. So
Oh, okay. All right. In that case.
Does it usually say join a breakout room? Is that right?
Mhm, I can move you in. Yes.
Look at the bottom, there's a little.
It just came up. It just came up for me. Yay. All right. Bye, y'all.
Mine
Take care.
hasn't come up. There it is. All right.